a silent sentinel, perched atop a Chinese Type 055 destroyer. The hypersonic missile ignited, leaving a fiery scar across the twilight sky. Its target, the USS Gerald R. Ford, an American supercarrier patrolling the tense waters of the South China Sea. The world held its breath watching the fiery streak arc across the heavens. Moments stretched into an eternity. Then, the blinding flash. A mushroom cloud bloomed on the horizon, a terrible testament to the unthinkable. World War III had begun. The shockwave rippled outward. A physical manifestation of the shockwave that gripped the globe. Financial markets crashed. Families huddled in fear. World leaders scrambled to their situation rooms, staring at screens alive with the nightmare they had so long sought to prevent. The fragile peace had shattered, and the world was plunged into chaos. This terrifying scenario, while fictional, is ripped from the headlines of our time. For years, military analysts and AI war game simulations have warned of the escalating tensions between global superpowers. The South China Sea, a powder keg of territorial disputes and military posturing, has emerged as the most likely flashpoint. With China's growing assertiveness and the United States' unwavering commitment to its allies in the region, the potential for miscalculation or accident is terrifyingly real. Beyond the South China Sea, other global hotspots simmer. Russia's aggression in Eastern Europe, North Korea's nuclear ambitions, and Iran's nuclear program all represent potential triggers for a wider conflict. Add to this the volatile mix of climate change, resource scarcity, and mass migration, and the world seems balanced precariously on a knife's edge. The incident that sparked the global conflagration was tragically avoidable. A near collision between a Chinese destroyer and a U.S. Navy guided missile cruiser, both operating in close proximity to a disputed island chain, escalated rapidly. Miscommunications, fueled by mistrust and decades of animosity, led to a fatal error in judgment. A single poorly aimed warning shot from the Chinese vessel struck a sensitive area on the American ship, resulting in casualties. The response, dictated by pre-authorized protocols and fueled by fear and anger, was swift and absolute. The world watched in horror as the initial exchange spiraled out of control. China, fearing a larger American attack, launched a preemptive strike against U.S. bases in the Pacific. The United States, invoking its treaty obligations, responded in kind. Within hours, the South China Sea was a cauldron of fire and steel, the sky filled with warships, fighter jets, and the deadly trails of missiles. The conflict, once confined to the South China Sea, rapidly metastasized. North Korea, sensing opportunity, launched a barrage of artillery shells and short-range missiles at Seoul, plunging the Korean peninsula back into war. Iran, emboldened by the chaos, activated its proxies in the Middle East, attacking American interests and disrupting oil supplies. Cyber attacks, originating from Russia, crippled critical infrastructure across Europe, sowing panic and disrupting NATO's ability to coordinate a response. The conflict became a global free-for-all, a nightmarish tapestry of conventional and asymmetric warfare. Alliances forged in times of peace were tested under fire. Some held firm while others crumbled under the immense pressure. The world watched, aghast, as the very foundations of global order seemed to shatter before their eyes. The initial skirmishes, as terrifying as they were, paled in comparison to the full-scale global war that followed. China, leveraging its vast industrial might, launched a multi-pronged offensive. Cyber attacks crippled American financial markets and military communication networks. Hypersonic missiles rained down on United States bases across the Pacific, seeking to cripple America's ability to project power. Simultaneously, Chinese ground forces surged into Southeast Asia, overwhelming American allies and securing vital resources. The United States, though bloodied by the initial Chinese offensive, rallied its formidable military might. Nuclear-powered submarines stalked the depths of the Pacific, hunting Chinese warships. Stealth bombers taking off from bases in Guam and Diego Garcia struck deep inside Chinese territory, targeting military installations and industrial centers. The war, once a distant nightmare, had become a brutal, bloody reality. As the war raged on, the world descended into a maelstrom of unimaginable suffering. Cities, once vibrant hubs of commerce and culture, were reduced to smoldering ruins. Millions, displaced by the fighting, fled their homes, seeking refuge in overcrowded camps. The lucky ones found shelter in foreign lands, while countless others perished from starvation, disease or exposure. The use of tactical nuclear weapons, initially unthinkable, became a horrifying reality as the conflict dragged on. The skies, once filled with the deadly ballet of fighter jets and bombers, were now choked with radioactive fallout. The land, poisoned by chemical weapons and littered with unexploded ordnance, became a deadly obstacle course for those desperate enough to return. The world, once so full of promise, was now a desolate wasteland. Even after the guns fell silent, the echoes of war continued to reverberate. The global economy shattered by the conflict lay in ruins. International trade had ground to a halt. Supply chains disrupted by years of war were in tatters. Hyperinflation gripped many nations, wiping out savings and plunging millions into poverty. The environmental consequences were equally dire. Nuclear winter, once a theoretical concept, became a terrifying reality. Global temperatures plummeted, leading to widespread crop failures and famine. The oceans, choked with plastic debris and poisoned by radiation, could no longer sustain life. The planet, already reeling from the effects of climate change, had been dealt a devastating blow. In the years that followed, survivors struggled to rebuild amidst the ruins. The war, once a distant memory for most, was now a constant companion, its shadow hanging heavy over every aspect of life. The old world, with its familiar rhythms and routines, was gone, replaced by a harsh, unforgiving reality. Yet even in the darkest of times, the human spirit endured. Communities, shattered by war, slowly began to rebuild. New alliances, forged in the crucible of conflict, emerged. The lessons learned, often written in blood, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of diplomacy. The scenario depicted in this essay is, thankfully, fictional. However, the warning it contains is all too real. The world, armed with weapons of unimaginable destructive power, stands at a crossroads. The path we choose, the decisions we make in the coming years will determine the fate of our planet. The choice is ours. We can continue down the path of confrontation and mistrust, risking a future defined by conflict and suffering, or we can choose dialogue, cooperation and diplomacy, working together to build a more peaceful and prosperous future for all. The clock is ticking. The time to act is now.